Yo, what is up guys, Grim here, and in today's video I'm going to take you guys through my money making plans for patch 3.24 on League Start. I'm going to give you guys my full strategy, the early, the mid, and the late game, every single scarab I plan to use, as well as some potential spicy substitutions, and all of the nerfs and buffs we've seen to the strategy. So without further ado, let's get into it. So, first things first, when you roll up to that atlas after completing Act 10, man, you're going to have a blank atlas. You're going to have to get your whites, yellows, and reds done. Now, traditionally, you'd have a special atlas, which you use and then respec later to get that stuff done fast. You want maximum map sustain, maximum Kirac missions, and you want a maximum free power from stuff like shrines and, Nico and all sorts of stuff like that. And this right here is the atlas passive, which I am going to use. Now, this is going to be a little bit different than a lot of other people's, but the general vibe here is going to be that you're going to want to make a full-on beeline to the Kirac nodes here, grab this full entire half of the wheel here, and this node here, and then make a turbo beeline, ignoring everything else up to Unwavering Vision, grab 20 Atlas points for free, and then you're going to want to head and spec into all of the map nodes, pick up the remaining Kirac nodes, and then grab all of the adjacent map nodes here to give you 60% chance to drop an adjacent map, and then after that, you can go ahead and grab scouting report chance, or you can also pick up some combat buffs like shrines and Nico packed with energy. Now, if you have no idea what I just said, do not worry. There is a complete dedicated video on all of these buffs and info here from Crouching Tuna. You guys can go check out this video. A lot of other content creators have also talked about this kind of a setup here. I don't want to retread already covered ground here, so I'm going to go ahead and just defer you to one of these guys' videos, and you can go and get a bit more info there. But I'm going to figure a lot of you guys have already seen that. But I'll link that down below if you guys don't actually know anything about that. So after I've completed my atlas and we've smashed through stuff with all this map stuff going on, I'm going to start speccing into my proper atlas strategy, the thing which is going to make us all that money, and that is Legion. Legion, again, I know it's a fan favorite, but I just could not resist, and the reason for that is because it has been buffed so damn hard to the level that I'm going to give it a new name. I'm going to call it the Penta Legion strategy, and that's because on an absolute low shoestring investment in terms of scarabs, you can get 5 legions with even more juice than you're used to. It requires 3 rusted scarabs and 1 polished scarab, and you get 5 legions with mega juice. I cannot believe it. What were they thinking? Anyway, let me take you guys through the strategy. So, of course, when you get to the end of that tree, which we just discussed, you're going to start speccing into this one, prioritizing the Legion nodes first and foremost. But let me take you guys through a bit of a tour on what we've got here. So we've respec'd pretty much all of the Kirac nodes, all of the adjacent nodes, and all of the scouting report stuff. We don't really need that anymore after we get all of the maps done, locked, loaded, and dusted off. And we've also respec'd Unwavering Vision, because we definitely want scarabs to drop here. It's very, very important. But my overall atlas tree is pretty much taking all of the Legion nodes with a few exceptions here. We're not going to be taking the chance to get generals because they suck. You definitely don't want them in your maps. They slow you down, they kill you, they're super duper annoying, and they make it so that it's harder to break the Legion out. And in addition to that, we're only, of course, taking Templar and Ameriketh on these 2 nodes here. But we've got some new spicy additions to Legion here, and these are the ones which really start to set it ablaze and make it insane. Now, the first one we have to talk about is going to be the buff to Influence. So you can now get a 20% increase pack size modifier to Syriac Arc and Eater of Worlds. So you're just getting way more influence monsters in your map, which means more altars and way more currency for the taking. Now, the first thing I want to talk about is the potential buff to Searing Exarch. So Searing Exarch previously could drop Awakened Sextants from one of his rewards. Now, those are no longer in the game, but GGG has said that every source of Awakened Sextants will now instead drop Scarabs. Now, traditionally, both altars could already drop Scarabs, so we don't actually know if those are going to be taken away, if they're going to remain, or if it's going to be Searing Exarch that only drops them, but I think that something spicy might be going on here. So I'm going to be going Searing Exarch as always. I think he's in general pretty damn good anyway, but this is just one more reason which he might be even better than normal, because Scarabs are going to be the name of the game, as I'll show you guys in due time. But apart from our Legion stuff here, the other big new arrival here is going to be the Scarab nodes. So there's two main clusters that we need to talk about. The first one here is going to be the main one. So off to the left of Exarch, there is amplified artifacts. Rare monsters in your maps have 50% increased chance to drop Scarabs per monster modifier affecting them. Now, what is the lead mechanic which consistently spawns the most rares with the least downtime? It is Legion. Well, for the most part, it's Legion. You're generally going to get anywhere between 10 to 15 rares in a Legion. Sometimes you can get 20, but you're definitely going to be getting a whole lot more than that in patch 3.24, which we'll get to in just a second here. But fair to say, you're getting a ton of Legion monsters here. And pretty much they're going to have a way higher chance to drop Scarabs than normal, which is awesome. So you're basically going to be playing a pseudo Scarab finding strategy basically straight off the bat, which is awesome. When you pop those Legions, I'm pretty confident you can expect to get, 1, 2, maybe even more Scarabs every single Legion that you pop. And those have a chance to be the really expensive and giga rare ones. That is actually crazy. Now, in addition to that, we're also taking another new Scarab wheel here, which is going to be Remarkable Relics. I don't know how good this will be, but it says Scarabs found in your maps are more likely to be less common varieties. The way I interpret this is it's going to skew the rarity drop table a little bit away from rusted and more towards polished, gilded, and winged, and maybe even horned. That's the way I read that. I don't know what kind of a shift it's going to be, but I figure it's probably worth taking, even if it's only just a little bit of an increase, because you do get a lot of Scarabs. First and foremost, from the node we just took, but Legion also drops itemized Scarab rewards fairly frequently, which is pretty damn good overall as well. Now, in addition to that, of course, we've got all our Legion nodes, all of our map nodes. We're still retaining our Nico and Shrine nodes as well. And that's because Legion isn't the easiest mechanic to farm early, even on a build like Lightning Arrow or Elemental Hit, which I am planning on playing. So I want as much help as I can get, and I'm assuming your builds might want that as well. So I'm going to be taking my Shrines, and I'm also going to be taking Nico packed with energy, and I'm also going to be changing up and grabbing mining byproducts as well to give me a little bit of extra income, because every single sulfite pile you click can give you some azurite, which can be traded for some resonators, which can be sold for quite a premium early on in the league. Now, let's move into why I think Legion is going to be so damn strong. So, of course, we've already got the Scarab finding angle. Scarabs are now global drops in the truest sense of the word, and we have increased ways to get them from Legion specifically. But that's not where the buffs and the insanity stops. The Penta Legion strategy, as we're going to coin it here, is going to go ahead and push it much, much further here. So the first thing we need to take a look at here is the patch notes. So one of the biggest sources of income for Legion was actually stacked decks. You would get a ton of stacked decks, not only from the Legion pylons themselves, but also from the Diviners incubators. You'd be selling, quite literally, I am not exaggerating, thousands of stacked decks over multiple playing sessions. And stacked decks, while nerfed, they don't drop boss uniques anymore. I am very confident will still retain a very high value. They still drop all of the normal uniques like Headhunter, as well as Mageblade, as well as all of the currency cards, which don't come from bosses as well. So it's still very, very good. But what I want to get to here is this note in the patch notes here. Actually, it's not that one. We're going to find it. Oh, okay. Here we go. It says, sources of divination cards drops from league content such as Legion, Blight, Delirium, Heist, Ritual, Expedition, and Delve now drop stacked decks instead. Now, what does this mean? Well, when you used to get a itemized divination card reward from Legion, the little icon above the head of a warhorde or a mob, it would drop stacked decks some of the time, but it would also very likely drop a random assortment of divination cards the rest of the time. And 99.9% time, it was complete garbage. It was toilet paper. None of the div cards are worth anything. It was so heavily weighted against you that they were never really very good at all. Now, what this means is that you will instead be getting, instead of like getting those garbage cards, you'll instead get more stacked decks. Well, at least that's what I am assuming here based on this wording. It literally says instead drop stacked decks. So that is going to give us a massive amount more stacked decks from our Legions. That is crazy. So very, very exciting there. You can either open them or you can sell them. I think that it's definitely a safer bet to sell them, but if you're a bit of a gambler, that could be fun too. Now, that is just the first buff. Now, you might think that there might might be a bit of a nerf to Legion. If you've been around Reddit and heard some whispers of 5-ways getting nerfed. 5-way EXP boosting was a big reason that emblems sold and people bought them. And that has supposedly been nerfed by up to 60% or more, meaning that EXP carries in 5-ways are maybe dead. Now, I don't really think this is as big a problem as people think. The emblems in last league were actually worth basically nothing, and Legion was still one of, if not the best league mechanics to farm outside of magic finding, which, you know, of course is insane, and it always will be. So overall, even though there might be a slight dip in price, you know, going from 4C an emblem to, you know, 2C an emblem, you know, like, okay, dude, you know, the emblems weren't that much of the profit anyway. You just sold them because you had heaps of them, and you can kind of straighten up your filter there anyway now, and pick up less stuff, which is probably going to recoup even more of those losses. So overall, you know, even though the 5-ways could potentially be worse, I'm not too worried about that. This stack deck change alone already offsets that. So let's get into the really juicy stuff though now. Let's start talking about scarabs. So what have we got here in terms of the juice? So this is going to be a bit of a flashbang, sorry about that guys here, but let's take a look. So Legion, we're going to talk low budget first. So everyone is going to get access to every single Kirac modifier as if you had 7th gate. So everything is on the table. You can use Legion, Harvest, anything you want, however many times you want, without any sort of prerequisite. So we're of course going to be spending 5 chaos to get area contains an additional Legion. Now from our normal tree, we already get a 1 Legion, so we're at 2 right now. Now you can use Legion Scarabs, the rusted variety, to add an additional Legion on top of that. Now you can actually use up to 4 of these, which is completely out of control. So you can use 3 in total, giving you a total of 5 Legions. So that is going to be more Legions than we've ever had the ability to get in our maps before without using Winged Scarabs. You're essentially using Winged Legion Scarabs now every single map, which is just mind-blowing. Why would they give so many Legions to us? And it's rusted as well. So Mark, or Neon, the game director for PoE 1, has gone on record to say that most Scarabs are going to be very common. And this is the most common variety of them, rusted. So these are going to be very, very common in the economy, and I don't think that they can really go much higher than maybe like 10, maybe 12C, and that is a complete steal compared to having to pay like 25C or something like that for a polished Legion Scarab in the past, which has felt pretty bad. And you can get so many more Legions, it's just great. Now, in addition to that, though, we also have new polished, gilded, and winged scarabs for Legion as well, which give us even more juice. So the main one which I would suggest using for low budget is the polished Legion Scarab. It's going to be pretty available. You only need 1 of them. And what it says here is Legion factions in area have 5 additional sergeants. Now, there's 2 ways you can interpret this. You can interpret this as each individual Legion faction having 5 additional sergeants, which is how it used to work with the old polished Legion Scarab in terms of warhordes, or you can interpret it as only 1, you know, kind of collective Legion has 5 additional sergeants. So you're either getting 5 additional rares with itemized rewards, or you're getting 10. Now, in the case that it's going to be 5, this 1 polished scarab here says gain 25 additional rares with itemized rewards, which is absolutely out of control. But if it's the really OP way that gives you 10, 5 per side, you get 50 additional rares with itemized rewards. It's actually crazy. So you normally get like 15 to 20 rares, now you're getting 20 to 25 rares per Legion. That is crazy. Now, it's not all sunshine and daisies though, because we have gained this, but we have lost 2 additional warhordes per Legion. Now, I would much prefer, personally, to get the sergeants, because you don't have to click on them, and you don't have to wait for them, and overall, they're a bit easier to break out. They give you headhunter buffs or inspired learning buffs if you're playing with that, and it's just a lot more juicy because it synergizes very well with our scarabs finding tech that we had earlier from our Atlas passive tree. So that's really great. Now, that is going to be our setup there. So 5 Legions, super duper rare buffs. You know, we've got the buffs from stacked decks, got our entire Atlas passive tree, and we are going to be absolutely blasting on a budget, which is pretty damn great. Now, if you want to push things even further though, you can also go ahead and dip into the fact that maps may be a massive commodity this league. So if we just go back to our Atlas passive tree here, I have been looking around the block here. I've been taking a look at a lot of people's different Atlas passive trees, you know, all sorts of players, and a lot of people, you might notice, have started to drop these nodes on their tree. A lot of people are not using mapping nodes, and the reason for that is that they want to get more chance at getting more league mechanics. They want to run harvest and expedition 100% of the time, stuff like that. They don't want to have to use scarabs because scarabs are so OP now. So they've been dropping these nodes. Now that means those players are going to run out of maps most likely, and they're going to have to buy maps. And who are they going to buy them off? That's right, us. So Legion generates some of the most maps in the game as a solo player, and we're going to be generating even more of them than normal because we have an additional Legion and we have so many additional rares from that polished Scarab. So, oh boy, it's going to be good. Now, pretty much everyone is not running singular focus either because they want to get the tier 17 maps, and they can't drop them if they have singular focus. Now, I'm of the opinion that tier 17 maps aren't going to be plentiful enough and expensive enough to offset the fact that you will not be getting a ton of your favorite map playing Legion Dunes. So I'm going to suggest that we do singular focus and we become the map moguls, the suppliers, and we favorite first and foremost Dunes and sell Dunes. But we also favorite other maps that other people want to run. And there's like, oh, you know, you just name the map and you can farm it and you can sell it to them in bulk, which is pretty damn awesome. Now, there's another cool bit of info, and that is that Dunes is right next to Toxic Sewer on the Atlas. So you can favorite one Toxic Sewer and the rest of whatever you want to sell, whether that's Dunes or Crimson Temple, whatever. And you can get a ton of Toxic Sewers as well. And that is the best map for speedrunning the mechanic, in my opinion, in this league. And it is also the best map for Blight. So these are going to sell like hotcakes, man. They're going to be flying off the shelves, which is awesome. So you're going to be making a ton of money from maps as well. I do this every league. It's a big money bank. Now, what's also cool is there's a new Scarab, which we could also delve into as well here. So if we take a look at my big Scarab sheet here, and we go all the way down to Cartographer, we have the option to go ahead and swap out one of our rusted Legion Scarabs, so go from 5 Legions down to 4, and we can go ahead and use this Cartographer Scarab of Ascension. It says maps found in area are a tier higher, up to tier 16. Now, what does this mean? So it means that whenever a tier 15 would drop, it would become a tier 16. Now, generally, the way that works in game logic is that you'd have to get 3 tier 15s for a tier 16, and that's how the game logic actually works. So if you get a chance to upgrade the tier from tier 15 to 16, that is essentially 3 times the maps. So you can kind of, the headcanon here is that this Scarab here is when a tier 15 or a tier 14 drops, you can triple that map drop. That is actually how it works in the game. So you're going to be getting, not quite triple, but a lot more tier 16 maps with this Scarab here in your kind of map device here. So if you are selling maps like crazy, they are flying off the shelf because no one is taking those map nodes, no one's taking singular focus, slam that thing in there and get even more juice, baby. Absolutely, get it in there, and it's going to be even better for you. So you can kind of modify the kind of strat there. You are going to make so much money, it's going to be ridiculous. All right, but what if you are now past the point where you need Nico? You don't need that anymore. You don't need shrines anymore. You are juiced. You've got inspired learning. You've got, you know, your big build. You're, you know, kind of smashing. You don't need those anymore. Well, you can go ahead and upgrade to my blaster tree here, which is an even bigger one, an even bigger and better one here. So we can go ahead and we can drop all of the Nico, all of the shrine nodes, and we can go ahead and we can get 132 points, and we can get 80% chance for Beyond with Endless Tide, and with a little bit of extra chance to get Beyond here. And that's going to give you even more rares, which feeds into your amplified artifacts, and it's going to obviously give you even more maps. Oh yeah, baby. Now, in addition to that, we can also pick up 60% chance for Delirium here, which again is going to give you even more maps, even more rares, which is, you know, the name of the game. And if you're playing a blaster, you're probably just looking for more, and this is going to give you that. It's crazy. Now, in addition to that, we're also going to pick up in our super duper mega smashing juicer mode, all of these nodes here, which give you increased effect of map modifiers. This is going to give you increased item quantity, increased item rarity, as well as increased pack size, which is going to be more influence monsters, more Beyond, more Delirium, you know, and just more monsters in general, even more league mechanic monsters, which we haven't even touched on, but we don't have time. So this is going to be a really damn good. It's going to increase your chances of getting Scarabs, increase your chance of getting Uniques, you know, the full Monty here. So we're going to grab this one here, Mounting Modifiers, which is going to give you anywhere between, 12 to 16% increased effective modifiers. We're going to get as much as we can up here on the top, and then we're also going to get Chisel Perfection, which is going to give us another 12% here on our maps as well. So overall, this is going to be pretty damn insane here. It's pretty crazy. That's pretty much going to be the main modification here. Everything else is the same as usual here. So add Beyond, add Delirium, grab the effect of modifiers. This is going to make the maps pretty hard, but that's why this is the end game version, and you have the other one to tide you over in the meantime there. So that is going to be my strategy, guys. I'm going to leave links to all of this down below. Now, if you want to go absolutely mental and you want to really push things, you can use the Winged Scarab here for Legion. It's called the Legion Scarab of Eternal Conflict. It makes it so that you can break out Legion monsters, multiple times and give them multiple reward tiles. But I think this is going to be expensive enough that it's going to be something you're going to want to have to hold off on using until a little bit later. I'm personally not going to be using this, but you can use it if you're doing an absolutely ridiculous character or you're playing in a 2-man. So yeah, I'd probably recommend using this with a Carto Scarab if you want to go for the map sailing, and then this if you're like absolutely juiced out the wazoo. But it's probably pretty hard. So yeah, that's going to be my strategy, guys. Links to everything down below, of course. Hopefully you guys have enjoyed this video, and it's giving you guys a bit of insight into what I am planning. This is just one of so many strategies I have planned. Hopefully you guys have enjoyed this, all the different perspectives and the economy analysis. And until next time, or tomorrow, cheers.